Ward.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I, as with everyone else, want to thank the Honourable Member for Hayes and Hyton for sponsoring and supporting this debate, which of course is important internationally, but as we've seen, to very, very many people in the UK. I've busily been trying to chop and edit my comments to avoid repetition from previous speakers and to save a bit of time. So what I say will in fact not be the only thing I have to say on this, but the only bits that are left really. There may be an avoidance of repetition, but there may be a few pauses as I try to make the best of what I have. We've had an overwhelming response, of course, to the call for the petition, well over 100,000 signatures nationwide, and today, along with members from my constituency who have travelled all the way from Bradford for this debate today, and hopefully are with us in the chamber viewing this, we're going to go to present to number 10, the Prime Minister, an additional petition of 2,000 signatures from local people in Bradford and the surrounding area, calling for the abolition of the death penalty in India. Now, many people in Bradford East feel obviously very strongly about this issue, and I believe it's important to highlight that the signatories to the petition who are presented today are from all walks of life. The death penalty is abhorrent, and this speaks to us no matter really what community you are from. There are many arguments, long established arguments for and against the death penalty. Some of those have been spoken about today, and I don't intend to go on with those. We've all been very well briefed, I must say, by Amnesty International and others on the situation regarding, despite the comments made by the Indian Supreme Court in 1983, despite that, the large number, nearly 500 in my evidence, of people on death row in India today. So just for the record, it's important to note we do not, of course, condone actions of people who illegally take or endanger lives, no matter what the cause, but it is vital to highlight the fact that the death penalty is wrong and should not be part of any judicial process in any part of the world. Now, an area which hasn't yet been touched on, apart from a passing reference from the Honourable Member for Bedford, I think was this difficult area of a nation criticising another nation, and we do need to be very careful not to appear to be holier than thou, especially when we are criticising other democracies. I understand that. Yes, we've abolished the death penalty and therefore can speak with some authority on that, but we do need to be a little bit careful, because I believe that such things as the Iraq War reduced our moral authority. It had many tragic consequences, many, but one of them, I felt, was that it did reduce our moral authority in the eyes of the international community. And whether it's through arms sales, whether it's to do with foreign interventions, whether it's to do with prevention of terrorism legislation, whatever it may be, we do need to be careful that we can speak with authority and be careful of what we do. We are still waiting. I'm delighted to see the Prime Minister's statement about a deep and shameful event over Amritsar in 1919. We are still waiting for Tony Blair to give his apology for what happened far more recently. We must be ever vigilant, and I suppose that is the key point I'm trying to make about what we do, how we behave. This needs to go out, not just as a message from a relatively small group of backbenchers on a Thursday afternoon, but a message from this government. And if it is to have authority, we constantly need to be looking at what we do so that we are above reproach ourselves. When I was recently in the West Bank, challenging the forceful removal of Bedouins from land that they'd been on for hundreds and hundreds of years, it was thrown back at me, well, what about how you treat travellers on Dale Farm. We need to be careful, because not only are we debating here within this room, we are being listened to by the world, and we need to be careful of appearing to be, as I say, righteous when it is not necessarily earned. As a Liberal, I believe it is our intrinsic right, but more than that, it is our fundamental, basic duty to speak up for all people, especially minorities who often do not have suitable champions for their cause, who face persecution wherever this occurs in the world. And no matter what entrenched views or self-interest this battles against, the oppressors often have powerful weapons at their disposal to stifle debate. For the whole of my political career, I have fought and campaigned against prejudice and injustice, whether that be at a local level, in my constituency, or internationally. And this is why I really welcome the opportunity for this debate to occur, and to thank the honourable friends for turning up in such numbers. And we've had more than here now, but it is important that this crucial, in my view, small L Liberal issue is raised as it has been today. Now, as I've touched on, the necessity of upholding the principles of basic human rights in India, espoused, as we know, through the UN Charter against torture and other cruel and degrading punishments, it's an important issue to my constituents, especially within the Sikh community, who have for so long bared the brunt of judicial and societal discrimination in parts of India. We are fortunate, and I do mean fortunate, to have over 5,000 people from the Sikh community living in Bradford, who make a vital contribution to the social, religious and economic fabric of Bradford and the local area. And it is appalling that this vibrant and flourishing community are not treated with the same dignity and basic human rights as they receive in Bradford, as indeed they should in all parts of the world. We've heard the statistics on the relatively now, thankfully, small number of states, still far too many, who have execution as part of their judicial process. It is an outdated and barbaric penalty, and although we are down to a handful, it is still far too many. The last point really is I've been previously approached by a number of constituencies over the last few years about the cases that have been highlighted today, the Balwant Singh Rajwana and Professor Buller. I know of those cases very well, and I've obviously said that they are still on death row. However, I must say and be honest, while researching this issue more thoroughly, I was unaware and in fact deeply shocked to find the sheer scale of human rights abuses that the Indian government has not acted against over many, many years. I am a member of Amnesty International and obviously regularly receive the evidence that they produce, but the extensive use over such a long period of time of forced evictions, excessive use of force, fundamental lack of due process and arbitrary arrests and detentions that occurred and still happen in India is shocking. They state that impunity for abuses and violations remain pervasive. The continuing existence of the controversial Armed Forces Special Powers Act gives the Indian Army arbitrary powers and near immunity from prosecution. Having been vocal in the past on the subject of Kashmir, I was aware in that part of the world of the scale of human rights abuses in Indian-occupied Kashmir, but not of the prevalence within the wider India, and especially against, for so long, members of the Sikh community. India is the third largest economy in the world and is and will be an indispensable trading partner to both Britain and the EU going forward. That should not be Certainly.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and I wasn't listening to
Order. What I would say is, just to walk in, I think is discourteous to everybody else in the chamber. All I would say is, I understand you want to make the intervention. At least give the member, at least 5 minutes to being in the chamber before we intervene. It isn't good to everybody else, and it's not a personal attack on yourself, as you would expect, but I do think it is good manners to the rest of us. David Ward.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The fact that the position of India in terms of its growing status in the world, in terms of the growth of its economy, and its importance in those respects to both Britain and to the EU, is not an excuse for not doing anything. It is more of an imperative to ensure that that crucial link between the two countries is used as a lever to bring about changes in India. We must not, and the temptation is there when we are seeking to improve our own economy and in particular exports and international trade, there may be a danger that we hold back for simply being frightened of offending a foreign economic power that we feel we need to develop closer links with. It would be immoral, in my view, if those growing possible trade links are used as an excuse for holding back on the criticism that I believe is deserved. It's crucially important to have this debate today to put pressure on the Indian government, not by a group of backbenchers or petitioners, but put pressure on the Indian government by this government to uphold basic human rights as a fundamental policy and procedure, and really for once and for all to end this terrible outlaw the death penalty. It is one of the most inhumane and abhorrent punishments in use in the world today, and it needs to end.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. And earlier, when I listened to his speech on the television, I noted him making the point about the importance of what our role is as a parliament in commenting on what happens in other countries. Would he agree with me, however, on issues like the death penalty in India and also on the issues about the rule of law in Kashmir? That it is right that all parliaments are committed towards improving human rights throughout the world?
Absolutely essential, and the point I was trying to make earlier on was that if we are to make these criticisms, particularly of other democracies, we need to be cleaner than clean. We need to ensure that our record in all respects is clean so that we can speak with moral authority on these crucial issues that affect so many parts of the world. Thank you.